So this is for the call for entries for 2023 exhibitions at the Finch Lane Gallery. Submissions are due March 31st by 5 p.m. Okay. To access information in general, you can go to our website, saltlakearts.org, and then specific information to the Finch Lane Gallery and the call for entries and a link to our guidelines are at the Finch Lane Gallery webpage on the Salt Lake Arts website. So let me direct you there really quick. So here we are on the main page. You can go over here to programs and click on Finch Lane Gallery and then scroll down. And then we have info about the call for entries. So here you can click on the application guidelines. We also have the same guidelines in large print. Clicking on here, it'll take you to this PDF. And this will basically list all the guidelines you need.
Claire, I can't see your screen that you're referring to.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I think it's the way I shared it. Okay, let's go back. Okay.
That's good. I see it now.
Okay. I'm going to return. So from the Salt Lake Arts website, saltlakearts.org, you will go over here to programs and click on Finch Lane Gallery. And then you'll receive info about the Finch Lane Gallery, beginning with info about applying for exhibitions. So here there'll be a button for the application guidelines and the same guidelines in large print text if you need that. I'm just going to click on the regular text and it'll direct you to this PDF. It includes all the information you'll need for applying, including the link to apply to the submittable. Now let me go back to my presentation. Okay. So I'm going to go over a few things before jumping into your questions. I'm just going to give a brief overview about the Arts Council and the Finch Lane Gallery, and then I'm going to give some application tips about applying for exhibitions and some overviews of what the exhibition space is like. So the Salt Lake City Arts Council's mission is to promote, present, and support artists and art organizations in order to facilitate the development of the arts and expand awareness, access, and engagement. And there are multiple programs within the Salt Lake City Arts Council, not just the Finch Lane Gallery. We have the Public Art Program, Living Traditions, the Twilight Concert Series, and we also have grants programming. The Finch Lane Gallery is located in the Historic Art Barn, which is located in Reservoir Park in Salt Lake City. It's pretty close to the President's Circle at the University of Utah. And the Finch Lane Gallery has two spaces. When you first enter, you enter the East Gallery, and it's the larger of the two gallery spaces. So in general, we have two exhibitions occurring concurrently, one in the East Gallery and one in the West Gallery, which I'll show you in a minute. Again, the East Gallery is the one that you just enter when you first walk into the building, and it's the larger of the two. Here's another view. You can see the door that you would enter as you go into the space. On this counter here, we usually put artist statements for both exhibitions there, and then the artist names and titles right there, but then this space will hold just one of the exhibitions. Then we have the West Gallery, and you walk through the East Gallery to get to the West Gallery. It's about half the size of the East Gallery.
All right, I'm trying to get that turned off.
Oh, could you just mute?
I lost the Zoom page.
I'm going to go ahead and mute you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've lost the Zoom page.
Okay. So you can see here the doors that lead into the West Gallery. The West Gallery also has, whoops, let me take us back. The West Gallery also has these two large windows that lead to our patio. So if you need a lot of natural light, that's a good space for your exhibition. All right, and in addition to the gallery spaces, we can also offer some resources. We have multiple pedestals in a range of sizes. We have digital media, such as 2 projectors, media players, and a flat screen TV. Though if any artists need to use our digital media, I usually ask the artist to set up the digital media themselves, though I'm happy to advise, but generally setting up the digital media is the artist's responsibility. And then we'll promote you across our platforms, which, it may or may not include our website, our email newsletter, social media, press release, postcards, etc. And then we include a modest honoraria, $250 per exhibition. Okay, so, we're talking about the opportunity of 2022 exhibitions, but I also want to mention that the Finch Lane Gallery also houses flash projects, which are interspersed among the exhibitions, and those are interdisciplinary projects. And again, just reiterating, the detailed guidelines and a link to apply is on our website, saltlakearts.org. Okay, so what is a Finch Lane Gallery exhibition? It's designed to give Utah-based artists an opportunity to exhibit their current body of work. So if you're not a Utah-based artist, you are disqualified. And it's an invitation for them to explore themes or media relevant to the community and field of arts at large, and to the opportunity to foster the development of curatorial skills. So, we allow individual artists to apply for exhibitions, we allow collaborating artists, we allow curators to apply for exhibitions. We accept submissions from both established and emerging artists, and we hold 6 sessions annually. And as I mentioned, it's usually 2 exhibitions occurring concurrently. So generally a total of 12 exhibitions a year. And they run 6 weeks long, which is longer than most gallery spaces in Salt Lake City. And if you're going to see examples of past exhibitions, you can go to our website and then navigate to the Finch Lane Gallery page, and there'll be a link to past exhibitions. And so any applications that you submit will be reviewed by the Visual Arts Committee. The Visual Arts Committee is comprised of Salt Lake City Arts Council staff, members from the Salt Lake Council Board, and artists who have exhibited in the Finch Lane Gallery, and other artists from the community. And the members of this committee change annually. And again, I think I mentioned some of this before, but some of the outreach and engagement with your exhibition includes the promotion that we'll do across our platforms. We also generally ask the artists to promote across their platforms. You have the opportunity to give an artist talk associated with your exhibition. And if you want to engage in additional programming with your exhibition, I'm always happy to help facilitate that, as long as it tends to serve our mission. And it's kind of nice to take advantage of the space while you have it. I just want to quickly go over flash projects, just because it's something that occurs in the gallery intermixed with our exhibitions. And we usually have the call for entries for flash projects in the fall. It's a relatively new initiative that began a couple years ago. They're short-term experimental projects, usually community-oriented. So these can include performances. We often have dance performances, sound or audio works, literary events, workshops, film screenings, etc. So it kind of gives you an idea that this space at the Finch Lane Gallery is meant to serve a multitude of arts media. And the call for entries for flash projects is usually held in the fall. So the fall of this coming year will be the call for entries for 2023 flash projects that will be interspersed among the exhibitions. And we hold 3 of those per year. Okay, so back to exhibitions, and usually, I guess, tips and advice for applying for most any art project. I would say pay keen attention to the review criteria listed in the call for entries guidelines. Again, that call for entries guidelines can be found on our website. I'll navigate to it again at the end of this presentation. I always recommend beginning your application early. And I don't think you need to necessarily finish it early, but I think as you begin an application early, that gives you space and time for ideas to come to you while you're working on other stuff. And you can always save it and come back to it. I'd also say outline a plan of action to make sure that your proposal is feasible. Because the committee will recognize if you're proposing something that can't be completed. We'll recognize that. So, make sure you're thinking of something that is feasible. That isn't to say, don't think outside the box or dream big, or be ambitious, I would say do all of those things, but make sure it's something that you can reasonably complete. And make sure you have clear documentation of your work examples. And I always suggest to have someone else read over your application, because too often, you know, as artists, we're kind of working in our head, and all the concepts that we're working on are, we know, like the back of our hand, like it's like breathing for us. And so we forget that our concepts may not be as familiar to someone else. And we assume that it's just inherently communicated to them. But I think if you give your application to someone who's not familiar with your work and maybe ask them, can you explain back to me what I was trying to say? They'll help you determine whether or not you are clearly communicating your concepts to a complete stranger. Along the same lines, you know, elaborate, unpack your claims and themes. If you use jargon, unpack it. Make sure anyone can understand your intentions. Be specific and provide details. Here's a great link to be thoughtful in your artist statement. It's at thecreativeindependent.com. I'm recording this this presentation, so if you don't get this link down right now, you'll be able to come back to it. I'd also say, you know, work on a compelling exhibition proposal. Narratives tend to capture human interest. But the most important aspect of your application really is your work samples. As best as you can, you know, provide good documentation of your work samples. We also get that not everyone has access to great camera equipment, but just do the best you can. You know, do the best you can to make sure your work is well lit. Maybe take it outside on a cloudy day and take photographs if you don't have good lighting, or put it near a window in your house to get good lighting on your work samples. If you don't have access to camera equipment, just do the best you can to give us, you know, good documentation of your work samples. And then this is unsolicited pep talk and advice. I always say that whether or not you're offered an opportunity is not necessarily a reflection of the quality or relevance of your creative practice. You don't know the other people who are also applying. Say you are applying with landscape paintings. It's possible that the committee received 10 other landscape painting applications. That doesn't mean that your landscape paintings are bad. It's just that the competition for that subject matter was high. You know, we don't want to have a full exhibition year of the same type of work. Also, you know that your work is unique to you. I feel like if all of our work looked the same, even if everyone's work looked like a Da Vinci, it would be boring. So embrace your own form of creative expression and speak to that, speak to where you are coming from. And I'd also say, like, if you don't get the opportunity, the work that you put into that application is never wasted. It always helps you understand your work better. It helps you unpack your themes. It helps you create a strong artist statement that you can, again, use all of that material to apply for future opportunities. So you are creating work for the future. I'd also say have grit. You know, there are a finite amount of opportunities for artists, and there are so many talented artists. And often on exhibition committees or any committee for art opportunities, we usually have to make some tough decisions because, again, there are so many talented artists and finite opportunities. But if you keep on applying again and again, I think you should be able to get some of those opportunities. But it may take, you know, multiple applications. I've heard of artists, you know, keeping stacks of their rejections and their acceptances to just remind themselves that usually you get rejected to more things than you get accepted to. But if you keep on applying to things, to various opportunities, you'll find your fit eventually. As an artist, I apply to a lot of things, and I used to take the rejections really personally. And then I realized that's not sustainable. That makes me not want to apply. And if I don't apply, I'm not going to get any opportunities. So as best you can, have grit. Okay, again, the ways to access the information: go to our website, saltlakearts.org, and navigate to the Finch Lane Gallery page. I'll direct you there really quick, but I just want to also give you my email address, claire.taylor@slcgov.com, if you have any questions. But let's go again to the application guidelines. Let me make sure you can see my screen. Okay. Can you see that we're here on the homepage of saltlakearts.org? Head over here to programs, click on Finch Lane Gallery. And then on the Finch Lane Gallery page, you'll have info about the Finch Lane Gallery and its mission, and then info about the call for entries. And again, here is the link to the application guidelines. And those guidelines list all the info you need, including a link to apply, info about the Salt Lake City Arts Council and the Finch Lane Gallery. And then if you scroll down, you'll get various info you need, like the exhibition schedule. And then something to pay keen attention to is the review criteria and the selection process. So this is the items that the committee will be considering when they review your application. So keep that in mind when you are creating your application materials. I'd also say, pay keen attention to the application materials. If we say an artist bio is 50 to 200 words, make sure your artist bio fits within that word count. Make sure it's at least 50 words. You won't be able to write beyond 200. Same for exhibition proposal. Make sure it's at least 150 words. Sometimes I get a single sentence and it's like, I don't know what you are actually.
I want the video.
I think that is the full portion of the presentation that I wanted to share with you guys. And so I've got time for your questions. I'm going to stop.
Claire, I have a quick question.
Yep.
Is 2 people a group?
2 people is a 2-person exhibition, and you're definitely allowed to apply for a 2-person exhibition.
But do we follow the rules of a group or?
Oh, good question. So let me pull that up on those guidelines. And I'm going to share my screen for this actually.
So my understanding was you'd want bios from both people, but the resume only from the person who was submitting. So I just clarified that.
Okay.
I would say, Cheryl, if it's just 2 people, maybe go ahead and submit a brief resume for both people. If it's
Okay.
if it's more than 2, then maybe follow those guidelines. But
Okay.
we won't ding you if you just submit 1 resume for one of the 2 artists.
Okay, got it.
Good question.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I think Carol has a question, but she's muted.
Oh. Carol, can you unmute?
I thought I couldn't because you muted me. Can you propose or can you specify which gallery that you would like to be placed in, or is that possible?
You are welcome to propose which gallery you would like to be placed in. When we create the calendar for the year, I'll usually propose an exhibition space for you. But if you are interested in a specific space, I think it's really worthwhile to mention that in your application.
Okay.
I have kind of a weird question. Well, I guess maybe a couple, but one definitely. So right now there's also another grant application, something for artistic excellence. I think are you familiar with the tier 1 and tier 2? And I was in that call yesterday, and I have a lot of ideas for a public project. And then I saw this and didn't know if it was possible to sort of hybridize those proposals because I need a place to propose my project. I don't know if you have an answer to that. I don't even know if I'm actually asking a question. I just don't know if that's possible.
No, I think I get what you're asking. So take my answer with a grain of salt because the grants program is not my program. Taylor, who probably led that workshop, is in charge of that program. So he would be able to give you the real answer. But my understanding is if you are accepted for that particular program that you're describing, that they would do their best to help facilitate a space for you if you need. But then they'd also be limited if we filled out the exhibition schedule with something else in the Finch Lane space if you wanted the Finch Lane space. But I think they'd want to help you get a space anywhere across Salt Lake City. If you are particularly interested in the Finch Lane Gallery for that grants proposal, I would recommend that you do apply for both and mention in your grant proposal that you would ideally love to exhibit in Finch Lane Gallery, but you are also open to other spaces. But because you're interested in Finch Lane Gallery, you are also applying for an exhibition at Finch Lane Gallery.
Got it. Okay. I'll most likely take that route because they did mention that in the proposal is as clear as you can have your location already established. And that's part of the actual proposal. So I have a few ideas, but this was one of them. And so I didn't know what that could be like. I also don't know if my proposal would be better as a flash project, even though I think it requires that 6-week duration. So I don't know. Yeah.
Well, if you need 6 weeks, a flash project wouldn't work because flash projects can only last up to 5 days. They can last a few minutes up to 5 days. An exhibition can last for 6 weeks.
Can the opening have some sort of interdisciplinary component then? Because I'm thinking, so I work with dancers, a visual artist, faculty at Utah Valley University, and I work with dancers often. So wanted to propose a public project that incorporated kind of a site-specific installation with dancers. And anyway, so the dancers obviously wouldn't be like a constant because you can't have them stay in there, but for an opening then could there be an interdisciplinary component?
I would definitely be open to an interdisciplinary component in the opening, or that you would propose it as like an event, like an extra programming associated with your exhibition sometime during the duration of those 6 weeks.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's super helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in the presentation that we're open to incorporating additional programmings during the 6 weeks that your exhibition is up. So it might not necessarily be at the art opening, but possibly. But usually we try to like focus on the art opening as the art opening and an artist talk, just because it gets so busy. There are a lot of people that come to the opening, and it's 2 exhibiting exhibitions at the same time. But totally open to additional programming during the duration too. But might be open to it at the opening. We just have to see if it would work logistically.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So there's an exhibition idea that I want to put together, and I'm currently working on 2 pieces for it, but the rest I haven't done yet, but I'm planning on doing them. In terms of like submitting like images, would you want me to submit like a piece that's like maybe mostly finished but not completely finished, as to kind of like showing you that this is a piece that I'm anticipating being in the show, or just submit like previous work that I've done, even if it's not of the same like theme or like material inside? Does that make sense?
That does
Like
make
say, like I have a bunch of like recently I did a bunch of florals, so I have a lot of floral paintings that I could show, but I'm kind of, for this, I'm moving on to more of like having more human components. And so I don't know how, if you would be like, oh, she only paints flowers and she's talking about portraits, but I have done them, it's just, and I'm working on them. I don't know. So does that make sense? Like how would, go ahead.
That is a great question. And it's sort of a common question a lot of people ask, so I should probably put it in my presentation. I don't know, I didn't think to. I think I would definitely submit some samples of work that you have completed in the past, because part of what you're showing in your work samples, you're demonstrating to us that you are capable of creating high quality work. You're capable of creating a body of work that fits within a theme, even if it's not necessarily the theme that you are proposing. You're demonstrating to us that you are capable of this. But since you are saying that the subject matter of the work that you're proposing to exhibit, dramatically differs from your completed work samples, I would maybe, do a few completed work samples, and then maybe a couple of the ones that are not quite finished, but maybe explain to us that these are not quite finished, but that you wanted to demonstrate to us that this is what the work that you plan to exhibit will look like. Does that make sense?
Okay, right. So going back to the work I have completed before, would you want me to just take samples that I think are like some of my highest quality painting work, or would you want me to do like show you like a series, like, oh, these are paintings that like fit within a theme? Does that make sense?
I would say give us your highest quality work. Along
Okay.
those lines, though, like give us a portfolio of work that looks like it's all made by the same person. So I guess in
Right.
contrast to, like, say, applying for an undergraduate degree program where you want to show like I can do, every single media that there is, and it looks like maybe different artists made all that work. I think, for applying for an exhibition, maybe give us samples that look like they're all made by the same person. They don't need to look identical. They can be made in different
Okay.
media, but it looks like it's all produced by a single individual. Does that make sense?
Right. So on that, like, so I've done a bunch of landscapes and florals mostly. And would it be, and they all look like I've painted them because I'm an oil painter and I like a lot of saturation in my paintings. So should I show like, oh, this is like a great landscape I did in a floral thing, or should I just do like all high quality florals so that it like looks more unified
I see what
in
you're
terms?
saying. I think mixing landscapes and florals
It's
is
fine.
Yeah, I guess I'm more thinking of like, say for example, with an undergraduate degree portfolio, you submit a sample of like you sculpted a bust out of
Yeah,
ceramics, and then I could do this charcoal drawing, and then I did this still life painting. You know what I mean? Those are very
Right.
diverse. And I mean, if that is the way you want your exhibition to be, then by all means submit that. But I guess for something like this, we don't need to see the breadth of what you can do. We want to see work that really speaks to who you are as an artist now. But I think submitting both florals and landscapes would speak to that.
Okay. So if I submitted a few completed high quality works of like landscapes and florals, and then like 2 pieces that I'm like in the process of, but are more indicative of what I would be exhibiting, would be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I would just
Okay.
in your application state that those pieces are in process right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So Claire, along those lines, having been on the other end of this process, we used to have a spot by the images. Well, and these are the days before the computers, but where you could actually say if that image was intended to be in the show that you're proposing, or it was representative of your previous work, like Courtney was just asking. And I haven't looked at your application yet, but is there a place to do that on the images?
There is a place to do that in general. We don't have that question for each individual image. That's a good idea. I should maybe incorporate that in future applications. The way we've got it set up right now is that there's a question after you submit all your images. It's a question that is, are these images of the work that you intend to display, past work, or a combination of both?
Okay.
Oh, I remembered one other question I had. When in terms of like telling you like when we would like to exhibit, do you, I mean, because I haven't looked for the location yet, but like say there are like definitely ideal times, but like if I can't get the ideal times, I would rather get a spot than not get a spot. Is there a way to kind of like say that or show that?
There is a way. So the way it's set up is that you can click all the spots that you are available for, and I would
Okay.
prefer that in that you put all that you are actually available for, and then you can list notes. So you could say like, I'm available all year long, and then the notes you could say, I would really prefer these 2 time slots or something like that. And actually, usually that doesn't affect whether or not you are accepted. Like whether or not artists are accepted is usually based on their application materials of their artwork, their bio, their statement. And then I sort of figure out the calendar after the fact, after everyone's accepted.
Okay.
I know that people can be kind of flexible in the time beyond what they put on their application in general,
Okay, so it's kind of like regardless of what we put there, we'll get accepted or not, and then you kind of work it out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, thank you.
Okay, any more questions?
Nope.
All right, well, thanks for attending, everybody. I hope you have a good rest of your Tuesday.
I'm
Yeah, thank
sorry.
you.
Oh,
Having
sorry.
said I have no more questions, I have a question.
Go ahead.
You said you were recording this, and because of that phone call that came in that kicked me out of the meeting for a few minutes, I missed the first four or 5 minutes. How can we access the video to see
Good.
it again?
Good question. I will put a link to it on our website. I'll put it on
Okay,
the
thank
Finch
you.
Lane Gallery page.
Perfect.
I probably won't have it on there immediately because it takes a little bit to
Sure.
the technology side, but I'll probably have it on there later this week.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Claire.
Yeah, thank you, Claire.
Thanks for attending, you guys. Have a good
Uh-huh.
one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.